Starting in 3, 2, 1. And welcome to That Karate Podcast. My name's Liam.
I'm Sean.
And today we have a special guest, Mr. Greg Anderson. Hello, Greg. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. And those that don't know Greg, most of the people in Scottish Karate are very, very aware of you. He's one of Scotland's top national athletes, and he's got a really fantastic journey to kind of discuss with us today. So I'm just going to kind of start right away. So, what's been your highlights so far in your career, kind of training? And
I think it's definitely been a journey. I think a lot of people kind of might see the success and the kind of where I am now, and recognize me for that. But it's definitely been a lot of hard work, and a lot of kind of disappointment through the years as well. But I would say it's probably my biggest successes so far, holding at the moment Scottish, British and Commonwealth senior titles is quite a achievement that I'm happy with. So that was definitely a big goal ticked off. And along with that, I've obviously competed at both under 21 and senior Europeans. I only had one under 21 Europeans because I was selected only for the first time when I was 20. So that's maybe something to come back on later on when I was first selected. But I came fifth at that under 21 European. So at my one and only chance to get a medal at under 21, I lost my bronze medal match. And then I followed on a couple of years with a fifth place at senior Europeans. And then on top of that, I have a couple of senior WKF medals as well at Series A events, a final in Cyprus in 2023 and a bronze medal from Pamplona in 2022. So and a fifth place at the Premier League in Dublin. So it's all been kind of into the senior results, which has been a journey. I didn't really have that. I had the opportunities, but I didn't really have that breakthrough when I was kind of the 12 to 13 youth leagues, cadets. They weren't even a thing when I was that age. So they were only new. So it was either you get selected for the national team or you do open events. And then I wasn't selected. I just wasn't there yet. So yeah, I would definitely say that's probably a kind of whistle-top tour of quick highlights.
Would you say, just kind of adding, would you say that was maybe more of a beneficial, or do you feel you missed out? Because I sometimes wonder that with younger athletes, are they getting burned out?
Yeah.
So when they get to senior level, that maybe, they've maybe have a long-term injury or maybe just mentally burned out with it. Do you think that maybe in hindsight your way was maybe better, or?
I think it's totally different. Like, you see the journeys of so many young athletes who have got exceptional talent, and it's the resilience and courage you need from that young age to continue going when you turn senior. I obviously had some successes, at national and international level, but in terms of that WKF breakthrough, I was there or thereabouts. I'd maybe go to they used to be World Cups is what they were called back in the day. So I won the under 21 World Cup in Venice, and the same year that I first got selected for Scotland. So people are like thinking that's the start of the upcoming. And I had been doing like Premier Leagues, and as soon as I turned 18, I just threw myself in at the deep end because something needed to change. So I didn't have that opportunity to do youth leagues, but I definitely think that if the kids are obviously coming up and got that experience, but also tailored in the right way for them. Like, if you're throwing them in straight away at a youth league when they turn 14, but they've only been doing karate for 1 year, then it's going to put them off. So I think it has to be that, like, you have to have the resilience to know that actually you might win everything in Scotland and everything in Britain and then go to every youth league and lose first round at the age of 14. And that doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means the fact that you need to build up the courage, you need to build up the kind of mentality, and also like the work to come back and pick yourself up from the disappointments. And I think that can be hard. Don't get me wrong. Like, I still, as much as I wasn't selected until I was 20 for the national team, I put my name in every year from
Yeah.
my 13 to 14 to 15 to 16 and every time I got the same email saying that you've not been successful, come back again. And I just looking back, I was in the moment, I was like, I'm never going back. I'm never going to get selected. But actually, it has definitely shaped me to be more of a senior fighter where I am now. But then
Right.
there is a lot of young, as you said, there's a lot of young talent, which is phenomenal. And they're excelling right now in, cadets and juniors at youth leagues. So it's in Scottish karate, it's how we harness that and get that to senior because but they have the opportunity if they continue and choose and are willing to put the work in to go under 21 youth league and then senior at the same time. So they can do them hand in hand. I
Yeah.
was 18 years old and went to my first Premier League in Amsterdam or Rotterdam actually. But I was like starstruck. Like I was standing beside all these big names and I couldn't believe that I was at the same place as these. And I was a little like I was about a foot smaller and 20 kilos lighter than I am now and fought in a completely different category. So it was I just remember though it was Callum Robb, a
Yeah.
Scottish karate legend, and he was part of the club. He was still training then, and he was like, "Come with me, like it's your first one, we'll do it." And I went and just I remember even being there with him. I was just like, and now I'm a heavyweight. It's like he is somebody that I'm like trying to follow in the footsteps of
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
of what he achieved at the Premier League and world and European level.
nice. Fantastic. And that again, it's an insight. I'm learning some new stuff here as well. I'm sure Liam is as well. Just kind of going back to kind of where it started, to be honest, Greg. We kind of shot straight ahead there, which is covering a lot of our points for today. But just a wee background on yourself, Greg, your top 30 in the world at the moment. Kind of what got you into karate? And you train out of Chris Ewing Karate as well. Just what got you in, and how much is the kind of the club playing a part in everything you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so I was started over 20 years ago now. So I've been in karate for 20 years, 27 in July. So I started at a young age at a sport when I guess it's not mainstream. I wouldn't even say karate is now mainstream either. It definitely is seen as like an outsider sport. And it's one of these things that I actually was obviously 7 years old. I did every other sport under the sun. I played football, I played basketball, I played water polo, anything you name it, I probably tried it as a child. And throughout the years, I am pretty academic as well. I'm a full-time civil engineer, to trade. So I work full time and train full time. So I always knew that I wanted to be an engineer, but I always knew that sport would play a massive part in my life, and it has, and still does. Um, and I then basically just Chris was doing tasters at my local primary school, and I went along, thought I'd give it a go. And the funny story is, I was actually probably looking back the worst at karate out of all the sports that I could have done. I was always obviously not on the national team at that age when I was into high school. I wasn't your golden boy winning at every Scottish championships. I was never there. There was other people better than me, and they've had more success at a younger age. But there's just something inside that made me stick at it. And I stopped basketball and I stopped water polo and I made sacrifices through friends and family and everyone. And then throughout that whole journey, I've been with Chris, and he's literally seen me grow up from a tiny little immature child, through all the spells of my life, the highs and the lows. I
Yeah.
was within doing a sport which I guess is so like self-funded and dependent on parent input. I was misbehaved as a child. Of course I did, and I got grounded by my mum, who's now does karate as well. So
Yes.
he is actually his whole family affair. Can't miss out my little brother as well, who's on the national
Yeah.
team. So we all have been around it for years, and like I have been with Chris through that. I was grounded, so I had to tell Chris, I can't come to training. I've been grounded by my mum. So, but then he's seen me at the highest of highs when I've won WKF medals, but to when I've lost at a localized competition when people would expect me to win.
Yeah.
And I think that is, and he's been there throughout. And my success today wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the backing and the support that Chris and the association have given me through the last 20 years.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you were saying about your kind of career highlights there. How does the winning the Commonwealth in South Africa recently? How does that weigh up? I watched the video on your Facebook. You kind of lead up to the nice wee kind of
Yeah.
promo video, and then you're winning it, and you win the senior teams as well as your individuals as well. So how is that? Is that kind of the top at the moment? Kind of highlight for yourself at the moment?
Yeah, I think it was definitely something that I actually in 2018 I have worked with a psychologist since 2018. So I've been through the highs and the lows of, different things outside sport
Yeah,
between university, family bereavements, injuries. The story goes on and we could have a
yeah,
whole chat on that. But I'd kind of said to her that, I WKF wise, as you said, I've been top 32 in the world. I was highest up to nearly breaking top 10 at the end of 2023. So I was pushing up there, and then 2024 didn't quite go the way I not expected, the way I wanted it to. At the start of the year, and that was like, right, okay, well, here comes summer. What can we do to start again, essentially? So it was all a kind of bigger picture process of let's start again, let's win my national title, let's go for British again, and then build up to Commonwealth. And I wasn't injury free. It was hard. I had a sciatic nerve injury in my back that I picked up while I was running. So advice, don't train for a half marathon while you're training for Commonwealth Games. Not ideal. So it is possible to do both, and I'm always here for pushing yourself, but there is a chance that something might go wrong. So I was essentially nursing an injury to the point where I just rehabbed it enough to get through. Um, but I was mentally strong enough to know that Commonwealths, nobody on that day was going to take that title away from me. I had disappointment in Birmingham because of my mental state in that period in 2022. So I was going through a bit of a difficult spell, and then I competed. I got a loss to I lost first round to Canada, who then got to the final. So I did win bronze, but to me that felt like a disappointment, and I
yeah.
wanted that. I wanted that title that I knew I was capable of. And yeah, winning it in South Africa was, yeah, it's definitely been a highlight over the last 6 months. To then follow it up with the team event, which
Yeah.
I obviously been that slightly older, myself and Dylan Rush, another national team mate of mine, who are kind of the older ones in the team. We had three young guns who were with us, and it was nice to kind of be able to direct them and ground them at points because the
Yeah.
excitement of teams can kind of flare through. But thankfully, I was able to win when I needed to, and we won it in the team event as well, which was just such a special moment for the nation as well. And I think everyone back home who were supporting us were like buzzing at the fact that we had achieved it. We know we could, when you looked at the category, but to perform it on that day in odd circumstances, considering they did the opening ceremony minutes before we actually even started to fight team. They stopped the whole competition.
Okay.
So we were warming up and they called us out to bow in. So we bowed in, and then next minute they were like, actually, stop it. We've got our guest come in. And they stopped the whole competition, and we had to sit fully like warmed up in our geese, ready to go fight in team event. And we had to all the score line up and watch the performance and listen to the same speech for the 100th time. Um, so we had all of that, and then we had to just flip it to go, actually, we need to now fight again. So
Yeah.
there was an element of like, I loved the opening ceremony. There was some of the songs they played, like that actual atmosphere was phenomenal. But there was a part of me who was just still very grounded that I had a job still to do, and
Yeah.
that was lead that team to gold. And yeah, it was a nice feeling. And Chris being national coach on the trip was, yeah, even more special. So he's
Yeah,
seen
he's a
that
good
as
guy,
well,
Chris.
which
I've
is
got a
good.
lot. He's a lovely bloke, Chris.
Yeah,
Big
yeah,
scary looking bloke, but he's actually a lovely.
yeah.
Don't for like to train under him. No, he smashes you guys to bits. I'm kind of hearing your story there. I can hear through the kind of the subtext of it, and I'm kind of liking to hear this. Maybe not living it's different in the fact that it's never a smooth run to success. It's never, there is the physical setbacks. There's the mental setbacks. Your mental health. Because when you are set back, you don't achieve what you expected to achieve. There is a psychological knock to that.
Yeah,
Just being people. We also have that
yeah,
going on, but you seem to be pretty grounded and have.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not always been the case. It sounds like you've got support, but you've been smart
yeah.
enough to realise rather than caving in and falling down, you've looked for support and you've created a structure and a plan. Is that fair to say? Is that
Yeah, I think that definitely highlights essentially um it's being a male in a sport where you're kind of expected to put a face on can be hard. And I've obviously now sitting here at age 26, I can say that, but I can see the fact that 18-year-old Greg 8 years ago when I reached out in 2018, so 7 years ago, I knew something needed to change because people were telling me, you've got the technical ability, you can do this, you're fit. So I was like, well, why is it not working? What is not in place for me? And I was very, as I said, I was just finishing. So I was finishing high school, going into university to study my engineering degree, and I was on a scholarship there as well. So that kind of opened my eyes to what I need to fix, and I was able to take it upon myself. I have a psychologist who I have so much to thank for what she's done for me. And I'm not like, I think the big thing is as well, like, I don't share this to have for sympathy, and I don't share it for like to make anyone else feel bad that they don't have a psychologist. It's very much everyone's their own journey. So my journey was going fine, I'd say. I knew I had more to give, but something needed to change, and that was my mental state. So yeah, from that point on, we got into the hard work of it, and it's not easy. Changing your mind takes years. And yeah, don't listen to this or watch me talk and think that I have everything together and every single day, because I don't. And the big thing for me is remembering, like, no matter what stage you're at in your athletic career, you are a human being. Like, you can be emotional, you can share that, male, female, or whatever you identify as. Like, you are free to show who you are. And that doesn't mean, just because you're competing at the weekend, you have to have a brave face on. You can bawl your eyes out to your coach before, but that's why they're your coach, because they understand you. So I think, or your support that you've got in place. And that's definitely come with experience. I used to hide. I used to not like, I used to be an emotional fighter, but then I used to just show it too much, and it used to ruin me. And I actually then came back to realize that harness this fact that I can be, grounded and chilled when I'm off the mat. And then when I'm fighting, I can be a completely different character. And that's taken me years to figure out. It doesn't happen, as I said, overnight. And yeah, there's been the highs in that when I thought, oh, I found it, I've cracked it. And then I might wake up the next day and be a completely different person. And I think without the support networks that I've been able to put in place with, my psychologist, working with Chris, the national team set up and coaches, my friends who some had to be left behind. And I think that's okay. Um, because not everybody wants to see you succeed, and that's the harsh reality of doing an elite sport.
That's sadly true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's some cheer and some don't, but it takes a wee bit to have that kind of level of self-reflection. Is not
Yeah.
something I see very often. I mean, obviously, I'm a far different stage from you. Yeah, as an instructor, I can see people who have technical ability, and I can see but they're just lacking that. There's that bit I can't give, and they have to find themselves, and so many don't. So for you to go and do that, and to admit you're not perfect, and to admit that there's flaws in your game, or your psychological profile needs a wee bit of help, to go out and do that deserves a bit of kudos, mate, because that's not everybody does it. In fact, very few.
Yeah.
So it seems
I
like
know, I
you're
completely
good
agree.
towards
And I
now.
think as well, reflecting back, like being so reflective is and open on it has come, from what I've done it myself, kind of thing. I've been on that road. So I think it would be like, again, essentially a message for anyone that is in that position that wants to go. It's just take the first step. Like, I'm a very open athlete who people can talk to if they need to. So there's a confidentiality element there as well. If you're at risk, I would have to take further,
Yeah,
but within reason. I'm happy to meet people for coffee. And if they want to just vent and say, look, I don't know why I'm not winning, that's fine. Let's have a chat. Because you never know what that chat might actually mean. Their karate might be fine. You might be coaching Liam, and you might see their technicalities, and they have everything in karate, but they might have personal issues and things going on outside. And people, I'd even say up to the age of 21 or even older, even me right now, I sometimes forget that how my personal life is heavily impacts where I am in karate. If my work is straining me, my karate is not very good. If my personal life is straining me and work is straining me, it's game over. I can't compete because I just can't, I'm not in the right headspace to do it.
yeah.
So people think, right, I just need to sort out my fight day mindset. That is a portion of it, but you've also need to think about, well, where are you and everything else? And once they're all aligned, you see results come. People have things, and you can create results and enjoy it. And when that enjoyment's there, that's when the biggest
That's a really interesting take on it. Obviously, we've
Yeah.
spoken to people before, but that's a really interesting take on it. As you say, you are an elite level athlete. Anybody that's seen you fight will know that. Sean's got a story about you beating Sean up. I relive it at least once a week in my head. But I can see an elite level athlete. But it's not just the physicality, it's not just the fitness, it's the mental stability, it's the leading up to the week. It's
It's the
nice to
bigger
hear
picture.
that.
I think it is
Yeah.
the bigger picture that, and I'll always remember, like my psychologist taught me, if your boxes aren't aligned on a shelf, then you're not going to be prepared. So like, it doesn't mean everything needs to be fixed. And I say again, I can caveat that with just because I'm happy and I'm living, singing, happy, smiling all the time does not mean everything is grand. There is still
Yeah.
things that are just in a box and put to the side because I will come back to them.
I'll deal with
But
that later. Yeah, that's not, a
yeah,
priority.
exactly. But the fact is, when I'm leading up to especially preparations for major championships, it's just me making sure that I have my own self-awareness, my own boundaries, my own karate skills as a box. And obviously that is a huge element, but
Yeah.
it also, family, relationships, work. If that's overstraining me, then no matter how many hours I do in the dojo, no matter how much weight I lift in the gym, it will it will not produce the results
Yeah,
because I'm not
exactly right.
enjoying it. So I think that's sometimes like I describe myself when I first reached out with my psychologist as I had a brain that was like spaghetti junction. And so many people go, I can recognize that because I've got 40 things going on. And I'm like, yeah, so now try and, uncook it, make them nice straight lines with spaghetti, and then realize actually what is causing you to feel this way. And that's a whole psychological, but it doesn't, again, I didn't have this fixed in one session. It's taken me from 2018 to February 25 to be able to actually say that I'm probably now in the best mental state that I've ever been in, both personally and for work and for competing.
No, that's
Nice.
I,
That's impressive.
I didn't know expect the conversation to go this way, but it's been really enlightening to hear that kind of aspect of it because so many
Yeah.
athletes are coming and talk just purely with the physicality of it, and but to hear the mindset from it, that was very good. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Just kind of you led us nicely into our next question. Actually, you've been selected to compete at the EKF Championships in Armenia. It's an interesting country to have a
Yeah.
competition in May. So, kind of, what's your obviously that's in May, so you got a couple of months out. What's your kind of training looking like? How's the preparations going for that? And look forward to kind of seeing how that goes.
Yeah. I think it's definitely selection is it comes and it just is kind of another thing, that's it. Accept it for what it is, you're done. Now you need to try and
Yeah,
get to ready for the championship. So I don't look too far ahead. I know I've got it coming.
okay,
And that is the final goal for the first half of the year. But I can't focus. I've got stepping stones between then. So that's again something that Chris has drilled into me from when we were at the Wadokai All Nations. So I practiced Wadokai Karate. So we were at the Wadokai All Nations in Japan in 2015. I was a wee junior, minus 55 in an open weight category. But that was in August. From January to that August, every competition, whether I won, lost, medaled, didn't matter. All Chris drilled into my head was it's a stepping stone for Japan. It's a stepping stone for Japan. And every single one of them added up, and I took bronze at the World All Nations. So I still apply that approach to all levels of competition. So, like, I have a training camp that I'm going to next week. Well, actually, leave on
yes,
Saturday, in Hong Kong. So, I'm going over to Hong Kong to train for 12 days with Willie Thomas and the national team of Hong Kong for an international training camp. So there's about 60 or 70 internationalists coming over. So that's a massive part of my preparations, but it's still early. We're still into the start of March. So, well, it will be by the time I go. And then from there, I'm going straight over to the Premier League in Hangzhou, so in China, which again is just a stepping stone to where I want to become me. And just reversing back, I actually used the Series A in Cyprus just a couple of weeks ago, where I know I am capable of more, but I wanted to see where I was at. And I wasn't at my best karate. I got rounds, which was I can accept, but I can now reflect on that and say, right, where do we need to dial in? So for me, that was the stepping stone for the year. I had the BKF Championships, Grand Slam, sorry, at this in January. That was the first stepping stone, and we just slowly add them up. And it's not about peaking for every single one, which I think a lot of other athletes you can speak to. Some athletes try and peak for every single competition, no matter how big and small. Mentally, for me, it doesn't work. Mentally and physically, it doesn't fit in with my life. I can't peak for every single week internationally because we have to travel, I have to work, I have to train. So how can you balance that? And I'm grateful I have a support network within the club with Chris and his dad, and the other national team and elite level athletes that we work together. I have an S&C coach, and so we all kind of can feed in to my preparations. And then yeah, going forward, it'll be a hell of a lot of karate, in the dojo as much as I can, and yeah, gym sessions, just following my strength and conditioning coach who'll work on what we gained from Cyprus, knowing that I'm probably fit. I'm very fit right now, which is good. Do I want a wee bit more speed? Do I want to be a wee bit more snappy? Yeah, I think I do. So there's a slight tweak there, but that's only because that was stepping stone 2.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how many we are. I don't know how many competitions. There's a few in between. So yeah, I think that's how I see it. I've got March. I'll take on March. I'll accept it for what it is. And once March is over, I'll look into April. I know we're fighting in Scotland for the BKFs, which is exciting in my home city back in Edinburgh. So I'll hopefully be competing. Depends on dates. I don't even know what date it is. So hopefully be
End
there.
of April.
Yeah, which is a week before Europeans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it is.
Perfect.
So we'll wait and see. I don't have the say on that. If it's up to me, I will compete, but I may be told otherwise from my national coaches.
Don't be getting a stupid injury a week before the.
Yeah, so I will leave the board up to that decision, and if they tell me no, then I'll be there anyway. No doubt, I love karate, so I'll be there watching, coaching, spectating, doing something, refereeing. I don't know.
You're always doing something, right?
Yeah, always
you're like get 4 changes of clothes. I've noticed when you're in
Yeah.
Yeah, you track it on, you get the.
Always. So yeah, I think that's how the next few months look ahead of the EKFs. And that's obviously sport related. I will be maintaining that kind of grounded approach to daily life as well. And not overstraining myself in terms of spreading myself too thin, accepting too much at work, trying to then go and see friends, trying to travel. And as soon as you start to add all these things up, it would affect that. As much as it's in May, it's a long time away. But yeah, that's kind of however many months that is, March, April, May, June, 3 months.
So what's your kind of longer term? Do you have longer term goals, or what's your kind of long term ideas within karate?
I'm looking the new format of Senior World Championships, so new qualification system for this year. So it just obviously it all depends on performance. It's performance based, and I think for me that's actually if you do a good performance, your results will come. If people start telling me you need to focus on winning a gold medal, it's how do you win a gold medal? By performing well. So if you can perform well consistently and build up to that, then whether I need to go to the qualification tournament or I can qualify automatically depending on previous results, then that will be how the second half of the year plays out. We've actually got our WADO All Nations in Japan again this year, so I'll be going over there for a couple of weeks in August. So I have that to kind of factor in. It's always difficult because it's post summer. I don't really have a summer break because I'm not in school anymore or university. So I just work throughout. But on that, like I think it is definitely something to cover would be just the fact that it is okay to have time off as an elite athlete. And what I've got planned for the second half of the year, yes, I've got goals, obviously looking ahead of World Championships and even into the following year already. It's there, it's on a piece of paper. But it's right now, if that's in your mind already, you'll start to drain away. And that it just gets too far away for me. And everyone's different. Everyone will approach it differently. I know some people that are they'll dial in from January to a goal that's in November, and every single day they know that is what they're working on, no matter what the tournament they've got. Yes, I agree. I have that mentality as well, but it has to be showing up tomorrow. I have to show up now. I have to show up this afternoon, tonight to coach what happens tomorrow. And it's then the compound effect of all these little elements that then add up to the big goal at the end of the year, month, 5 years.
Nice.
That's a very healthy way of looking at it. So instead of, as you say, the thought process of things being the future will drain you from your shorter term goals. Although they're there, that makes absolute sense. I'm going to go back. I need to get this story in, Sean. So obviously I'd seen you competing, and I was like, God, these, and on the mats, you came across, you're very confident, or you certainly seemed it. You sounded very confident and kind of on the mats. And Sean was fighting, and I was sitting in Sean's corner, and is it Chris's dad, Davey?
Yeah,
was sitting across. And Sean's going up to me and says, "What's that do here?" And I said, "Honestly, I don't know, mate. I think you've got you've just fight, mate. Just I know words of wisdom to offer." So Sean's gone on, and then I think Sean cracked you just above the knee. And I turned around, and Davey, to my, I'll never forget, turned around and like this and went, "You shouldn't have done that, son."
Yeah.
And you turned Sean upside down for a very amusing 2 minutes, which is I memorise every time Sean makes fun of me and calls me old.
Yeah,
I want to thank you for that
no
joy
problem.
you've given me. But you're always, all jokes aside, you're always a joy to watch on the mats. Your energy on the mats. I'm not saying this because you're here. My students will back me up in this. I'm not saying this with pressure on you either. I always talk about, for me, a lot of Scottish athletes seem quite small when in the warm-up area. So I was at the Euros last week. I was in Poland. And sometimes the Scottish athletes seem quite small, almost in the warm-up areas, almost like they're intimidated, or they go out and they're intimidated. Or whereas I felt with you, you were like controlling your space. You would step out with confidence. I would maybe use a little bit of arrogance going onto the mats, and that self-belief. And I've spoken to my guys actually using your name, and I'm honestly, I'm not saying that because you're sitting there. That's maybe an example that Scottish athletes need to follow, is that just stop going out thinking you're second-class citizens, going out there to dominate the mat, dominate the warm-up area. You're not there to make up the numbers, you're there to take part. And that's certainly something I get, an energy I get from you watching you on the mats. But knowing that it's not all perfect in the background actually adds to that story for me, because obviously you've had trials and tribulations, physical injuries, the mental highs and lows, the disappointments, the excitement. You've had all that, but when you go on that mat, I don't see it.
Yeah.
That's not what I see. So I've certainly used that, saying to my guys, listen, watch him. Watch how he goes up to the mats. Don't be panicking now, my guys are all watching you. But that's I've actually used that as an example. So that's something very few Scottish athletes bring.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's something that I will put my hand up and say I haven't always had. That has come with a lot of hard work. And there is an element, I agree, that there's some people that I know that are now some of my closest friends within sport, and they were like, I thought you were as arrogant as they come because the way you look and the way you fight, but actually you're really nice off the mat.
Yeah.
And I think it's not always there. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not this robot. As soon as I fight, like, I'm ready to go, and everything else moves away. You have to work on that, like, out with. You can't just turn up to a competition and hope one day you're going to be up there aggressive with a presence on the mat, because it doesn't happen. There's still competitions where I feel a little bit like, whoa, I need to kind of spread my shoulders a wee bit here, because I do feel myself like, bringing in that kind of, not intimidation, I would probably just say nerves. And it's how you then control that. If you let them control you, your fight's done. Or your performance is done. So, but if you go out there, and I say this from kata side and fighting, you go out there and know that you deserve to be on that tatami, then you can do anything. It doesn't matter. As long as you stand up there with pride that you know this is my moment, or this is my match, this is my area, then go and do it. Even if you get beat 9-0 or you fall over in your kata, I don't care. Just get up there and be a presence on the mat. And it's amazing the difference in, like, having that little bit of attitude, that little bit of kind of like arrogance, but in a sportsman way. There is some people that can then have it in another way where it's just complete arrogance. They're a danger to the sport, and they kind of people need to be reeled in a little bit and actually taken back to basics, saying, look, I like your emotions, but it's not for us. This isn't the sport that we love and do. So there is a very fine line. And if you give it too much, some people, like, I'm notorious for people knowing that I'm quite loud when I'm on the mat. and that's fine, and I don't mind that. But it's definitely a flick of a switch, because there's some competitions where I can go to, and even I come off and think, Christ, it was a bit quiet there. And it's not who I am. Like, that isn't the
Yeah.
fighter I am. Normally, I'm roaring and screaming and sharing my emotions, but in a controlled manner. So
Yeah.
it's taken me years to harness that. Years. And Chris working damn hard to make sure that I'm harnessing it in the right way. um, and not anger, and not like malicious, but
Yeah.
and not emotional either. Like, I think when you're going down, you can still be hungry for it, but not bawling your eyes out in tears. And I know, obviously, I'm now 26, 27, I can control that. Don't get me wrong, again, still human. A 7-year-old has the same emotions at points.
Yeah.
They can be getting beat, they drop their chin, they start crying. So it's, as coaches, then it also, how can we improve that for, athletes going forward? And I think it's definitely something that I do think is a strong point that I have.
No,
No,
it's
that's
obvious on the mats. It's obvious on the mats. And as I say, when the first times I ever saw you through the WKF setup, what your friends said, I was like, "Is that cocky, isn't he?" And then I actually got to chat to you and bumped into you a couple of times. I'm like, he's a lovely guy. He's like really nice, because the persona, it's not the persona's different. You're still the same person, but
Yeah.
it's game time.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's that difference. And I
It's
think
like you've got a job to do,
yeah,
and I think
100%.
that's what it is. You're there to compete. Whether it's whatever your own goal is, whatever stepping stone, whatever stage you're at in your season, your career, you've got a job to do. And if you achieve whatever you want to do, whether that's survive a 3-minute match, score a point, win a round, it doesn't matter. And that makes you no better or worse than the person that wins gold. If you achieve what you want to achieve from that competition, then it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. That is you making a step in the right direction. And you're moving the needle towards where you want it to go. And it's the same. Show up for that. You show up for your daily work. I turn up to work to be an engineer. I don't just sit at my desk and think about karate, because I've got that going on as well. I turn up and I do what I need to do. So I think that is definitely something else that comes as age. Talking to a cadet who's going to school, you can't really be like, you need to go to school and show up. But you can tell them when you're in school, yeah, you're going to have karate afterwards. And that's fine. And they might be excited for that. But to me, a big thing for me as well is, so many people drill like this generation that you have to have one or the other, when actually you can have both. You can be academic, or you can be practical, and you can have a job, and you can be successful in sport. And I think that is so powerful, to have that, just because some people are taught from a young age, and it can be a generational thing from our
Yeah.
parents as well. Some parents are very much of the generation where they're like, you need to work 9 till 5. This is your job. You need to pay the bills. And they just, hobbies are then, put in a box and left to the side.
Yeah.
But actually, you do find, I don't know, from your perspective as well, from being coaches, is the kind of your younger parents are much more, yes, you've got school as well. How's it going? Is it balanced? Okay, let's do karate alongside
Yeah.
it. So for me, I've got, my parents are slightly older, which is because, well, I'm old as well, and I've got an older sister. So but my mum was never, and dad were never of the, you have to choose one or the other. It's up to you. If you want to make both work, go and do it. It's up to you. If you want to stop karate because you want to get A's in your exams, do it. Or you want to get A's in your exams and do karate, make it happen. So they gave me that power, and now that's where I am. As I said, I've got a master's degree in civil engineering and I've been here for 4 years. So
There's so many that academic success is the only measure of success. Whereas I've seen personally, as I've been coaching full time for 13, 14 years now, I've now got students that are off to university, St Andrews, Dundee, Glasgow. They're away, and these are kids who trained a lot. They weren't kids. The kids that I saw training once a week or twice a week didn't. And the kids that had that kind of mindset where it was like, I'm working, and they seem to have gone a bit further. They've gone to the higher education. They seem to have. So I think there's an argument there that we need to kind of keep kids in sport as long as possible.
yeah.
Because
I think you've obviously got the external factors as well of friendships. When they get to that 12, 13-year-old, they want to go party. They want to play in the park until late at night. They want to start doing different things. And what does karate offer them? It's as like a nation, we're quite small. We're growing in the karate world and results are coming, but we need to keep our grassroots growing. You know, that
Yeah.
grassroots needs to be the fundamentals of Scottish karate in the future.
100%.
Yeah, totally agree there. No, it's fantastic. No, thank you. I
Honestly,
think we
brilliant.
obviously,
Really,
yeah,
really enjoyed that. That was, I wasn't sure. When we had kind of talking points written down beforehand, but to hear you kind of flesh things out was quite inspiring. So I'm actually looking forward to my guys hearing this. Never mind the 4 people that listen to the podcast. So, and Sean and I are 2 of them. But guys,
yes,
thank you so much for your time. It's what an inspiring story, and hopefully we'll get you back on at some point for another wee
Yeah,
chat.
for sure.
And we wish you the very best of luck for the rest of the year.
Perfect.
We're
Thank you very
all
much,
rooting for
guys.
you. Win, lose, or
yeah.
draw.
Thank you.
Belly, go and get back to
You
your.
need more work now, yeah.
No. Back to now. Change the mindset. Back to go and
Yes,
That's it. Switch
build
off.
some bridges and design some roads. That's what I'm off to do now. So
So,
exactly.
have you got any socials we can get guys to follow for you? What's your socials?
yeah, so just Facebook, I'm just Greg Anderson, just my full name. Instagram will be just Greg Anderson 98. So there is an underscore, but if you just search my name, I'll come up on Instagram as well. So yeah, and as I said, I know if people can resonate and resonate to my story, and there's anything that's come up that maybe they want to talk about or hear more on, just drop me a message, and or reach out to Liam or Sean, and we can see what we need to do going forward.
I
Fantastic.
mean, very kind of you, thank you. And we'll definitely tag you in it as well. And again,
Perfect.
appreciate you're a very busy man, so I appreciate your time there, mate. Thank
No
you.
problem at all.
So we'll finish it off there. So another big thank you to Greg. Have a wee look at his socials, and share. Have a wee look at his journey. It's an inspiring one. We look forward to seeing what he does going forwards. Don't forget to like and subscribe to us too. Appreciate that. And we'll see you on the next episode. All right. Finishing in, if I can get this to work. In
Thank you.
3, 2, 1.